He is part of the must-see crew of Good Morning Football every single day on NFL Network. You see him on Fox Sports, and you'll see him as part of NFL Network's draft coverage all 3 days, including the final day with me, Daniel Jeremiah, and Charles Davis. He is Peter Schrager here on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm doing great. Rich, I've said it before to you on air. I'll say it off air, and we've talked a lot off air, but I think the Run Rich Run stuff that you do and devote your time to and what we all get in on, I think it's one of the best things we do at the NFL Network, and I cannot wait for that day 3 because the other part of it is, you know, you and I and DJ and Charles are working this thing for 3, get a little loopy, and we have fun, and I think it's a loose broadcast that I'm not going to wave our flag as opposed to the competition or our partners at the other spot, but like that is a good hang and a good watch for you at home if you want to put on NFL Network day 3.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you saying that. And then the crew at Good Morning Football, you guys are right there lockstep with having kids from St. Jude on the show to talk about raising money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I think I saw a young man the other day saying, I'm going to run a sub-5.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
Packers fan. He was great. Sub-5. I said, go for it, 9 years old. And he said, you know, this is a kid who had already overcome a tumor the size of a baseball.
Unbelievable.
As a child and as a 5-year-old. And he's on our show. And Rich, like, we've had on all the top prospects. There's no better prospects than when we get these kids on the other side of things who are talking about what St. Jude has done for them and how important that partnership has been with the NFL and with you. I mean, it really is. It puts things in perspective in a way like nothing else, and I'm so grateful to even be a part of it and just being a part of this stuff on day 3 with you.
Well, and just to put a final note on that, you know, they say never to meet your heroes. I'd love to meet that young man, though. However, on the other side, if he thinks I'm running a sub-5 and thinks I'm his hero, I hope he never meets me, because I would sorely disappoint him as I did the other day. I don't want to reveal my time, but it ain't that. Let's just put it that way. Well, maybe, you know, right around the 22-yard line. That could have been at my time.
Sure.
You know. Well, okay, let's get into this draft, Peter Schrager. Is Aiden Hutchinson going to be the number 1 overall pick, or we're just seeing a lot of smoke and fire and lying and rumor mongering and things like that right now? What can you tell me, you think?
Yeah, so I've had Walker number 1 for the last couple of weeks, and there's a lot of rolled eyes, and now the pendulum has swung all the way around where now Walker is being considered the favorite for the number 1 overall pick out of Georgia, and now there's all the second guessing of like, all right, but is that just because everyone has not been sold on Hutchinson anymore? The truth is, I don't think Jacksonville's over the moon on Hutchinson, and it goes back to Trent Baalke, who's the general manager, and what he historically has done as the general manager of the 49ers, and it was taking Anthony Davis, a little-known tackle out of Rutgers because of the physical traits, over Brian Bulaga. It was taking Alden Smith over J.J. Watt and Robert Quinn, who are monsters at the college level. It's a history of taking the physical specimen and the guy who can do more physically than necessarily the finished college product. I think it's somewhat insulting in a backhanded way to Aiden Hutchinson to suggest he isn't that sort of athlete. But I've had Trayvon Walker compared to Micah Parsons by a few personnel folks, saying maybe not the player he is right now, but the versatility of being able to line up over center, linebacker, defensive end, do a lot of things with him. And right now, the way it's here, and it could be just as easily be Trayvon Walker or Evan Neal than it would be Aiden Hutchinson. So I don't think anyone knows for sure, including the folks in Jacksonville. But this is not the slam dunk, put it in pen, Aiden Hutchinson, as we might have thought it was coming out of the combine in February.
Well, why would the Jaguars take an offensive lineman when they've already signed Cam Robinson to a franchise tag? And you know that again, he's signed. He's going to be there. That's happening.
He is there.
So why would they go ahead and get another lineman? Why would they do something like that?
That is for 1 year, and it might be longer if they can work out a long-term deal between now and July 15th, of course. But that is a 1-year deal at the moment, and you're looking at Trevor Lawrence being your quarterback for the next 15 years, and that's the hope. And if you can find him a guy who can protect him at a level right away, like you might think either Icky or Evan Neal can, you can make that pick, and both Icky and Evan can play on the right side or the left side. So you look at those two players, think they both make a lot of sense if you're Jacksonville, even with Cam Robinson on the roster. But the truth of it is, Rich, and we spoke about this internally at the NFL Network, we're not going to sell this draft on the quarterbacks or, hey, here's the next Hall of Fame player at number 1 overall. We're selling it on the unknown and the intrigue, and I consider myself as plugged in as anybody, and I can tell you right now, no one knows or no one can even project with a firm handle on it who Jacksonville's even taken at the 1 spot. And you go back through the years, I can't remember a draft like this going back maybe to when Eric Fisher was the first overall, and it was like Eric Fisher or Luke Jokel. That was the question. So that's going back more than a decade. I love this draft. I think there's so many unknowns, and it really makes it intriguing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, when Baker Mayfield was drafted first overall, I mean, the word was coming out a few hours before that it was going to be him, but I still needed to hear the words come out of Roger Goodell's mouth to actually believe it. What are the odds? And that's rare that I'm able to ask those questions about anything in Las Vegas. What are the odds that we really won't know? Like that Roger Goodell will truly be the Paul Revere telling us who's coming to Jacksonville. What do you think?
It's a great question. Last year I was on record saying everywhere that I think it's Trey Lance or Mac Jones. Trey Lance or Mac Jones, 3 of the Niners. And at the last second, I said, it's going to be Mac Jones. It's going to be Mac Jones. And I had worked with John Lynch as a sideline reporter for Fox Crew. I've known Kyle Shanahan for years. And to this day, I'm like, gosh, I was even shocked, and I know those guys inside and out when they went with Trey Lance. I think that there's a chance that these guys in Jacksonville can keep this secret all the way up until the draft. Now, whether it was John Dorsey or it was Elliott Wolf or whoever it was as the head coach at the time in Cleveland who let it out of the bag hours before, but we knew Baker about 2 o'clock, on a draft that was starting at 6 o'clock. This one, I don't think we're going to know. I really don't, because it has been so kept under secret and lock and key at this point that I think it might feel like that San Francisco pick, which I watched back earlier this week or yesterday. I watched it back, and your reaction, Rich, was everyone else's. Wow, they actually did it. They took Trey Lance over Mac Jones. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear suspense. We want to hear you to be so surprised when that pick is in that no one tipped this pick, and it is a pure reality show, and even the player is surprised when his name is called.
Peter Schrager, Good Morning Football, NFL Network here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you just mentioned, your history of working with John Lynch prior to being in the general manager spot and knowing Kyle Shanahan for as long as you do. What is your best guess as to what is the irreconcilable difference in Deebo Samuel's mind to want out of San Francisco?
I don't know. I've heard so many things. It was originally that he didn't want to be used the way he's used. Well, that's okay, fine. We'll put that in. Then I heard it was that he wanted to be closer to home, which is an odd thing for a young man, coming in. Okay, fine. And now the most recent thing is that, well, look, he just needs to start anew, and let's just. I don't think San Francisco's going to trade him, and if he is traded, I think it would be in the next couple of days. I don't think it'll be draft day, but just knowing how valuable he is to Kyle and knowing how much they love him there in San Francisco, I don't think they want to hold him hostage in any way. But I can't imagine they can't come over their differences and make this thing work. Ian Rappaport said earlier this month that they do want to pay him. They do. I know they do. And I think that they will pay him. And I do believe they're trying desperately to figure this thing out because he is such a special player to them. And he might be more valuable to them than any other team in the NFL.
Well, I mean, the idea that he didn't want to be or doesn't want to be in San Francisco because it's not Carolina, right, where he's from. We saw a video of him working out here in Los Angeles. So this is his spare time. If he wants to be on the East Coast so badly, why is he training in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah. And there was a story on Instagram stories yesterday of him at Nobu in Malibu. Well, I'm sure there's some fine places to eat in the Carolinas too, but you're out here, you're in Malibu. So that one's interesting. And then the other part is I don't want to be. And I'm not knocking the guy. He's unknockable. There's nothing to knock. There's nothing. I don't want to be used that way, and that doesn't come from him directly, but that's what we're hearing. I watched some interviews back at the Super Bowl. He was on with, I think, Matt Maiocco in Comcast. San Francisco. He said, "I want to have 1,000 yards rushing and receiving." So if that's the case, you might want to play running back too. I don't know. So I think that there's a lot of things coming out of Deebo's camp, and a lot of things we haven't heard from him directly, and I don't know. Rich, it's a different time. Players want to be where they want to be, and if he was to actually be traded from San Francisco, I would be shocked, but I can't be surprised by anything at this point Davante Adams left Green Bay, which seemed like a pretty good situation to me as well.
No, yeah, I know. And Tyreek Hill's a Dolphin. Like, the hell going on was the tweet that Stephon Diggs tweeted out. And that to us here on this show is the headline of the entire NFL offseason. To me, while we're, I guess, just speculating, this sounds like business. And it sounds like a number came from the Niners that landed poorly with Deebo. And he might be somebody's like, that's it then. See you. I'm out. And I don't want to talk. And then maybe the draft goes through and he's still in San Francisco, and then they can revisit and say, let's just talk the number now because we're not going anywhere. I mean, but I don't blame him for seeing everybody else with their numbers. Let me ask you this question. Is there an issue in the NFL about paying guys who are 3 years in their first contract the numbers that say Davante Adams gets 8+ years in? Is that now an issue, do you think?
Yeah, we haven't seen one of those guys get broken off like that yet, though. Even Terry McLaurin's waiting, and he's you want to talk about a guy who wears a C on the jersey, and he's the most unbelievable guy. Like that, if they're not breaking him off right now, and then you look at DK and AJ Brown, obviously, but Deebo, like, we haven't seen that mega deal from those guys. Now, DJ Moore got an extension. We've seen some big second contracts, but Tyreek and Davante are 28 and 29 years old and have put on those seasons year after year after year. Deebo hasn't yet. I think his value right now is as high as it's ever been as a pro, and maybe the highest it'll ever be. I also wonder if, and again, I understand if there are people who are Deebo Samuel supporters who said, you're really, coming after the kid. I'm not, but, without Mike McDaniel as the run game coordinator, does he put up those same numbers? Without having a coach like Kyle Shanahan, is he putting up those same numbers? And without Mike LaFleur, who was with him in the year previous, or the 2 years prior with the Niners, who's now the Jets, does he work the same? Like I said today, Carolina would be a great place for him, but like, is he doing that with Ben McAdoo as the offensive coordinator? I don't know. So it's this yin and the yang. It's the chicken and the egg in a way, where Kyle Shanahan is such a diabolical genius with his offense that he had the courage to put a wide receiver at running back throughout the playoffs, and it worked. I don't know if every other offensive coordinator is using him that way.
Peter Schrager here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, you have Kenny Pickett in your mock draft going to Carolina. What's the tea leaves there, and how do you see the quarterback draft going into Vegas?
I think it's pretty bleak as far as like names surging up the draft board, and if it's not to Carolina at 6, I have a hard time finding another team in the top 10, and then we start bleeding down into the teams and even to 20 at the Steelers, where they've been singing praises both externally and off the record about Mitch Trubisky since he's gotten there. So, Rich, I think that's really interesting. Like, I've got Pickett going 6 to Carolina. I don't think I'm going to change that. I think they do need a quarterback that they draft that they believe is their pick, and I think Pickett makes a lot of sense to them. But, gosh, I don't have a team that's banging down the doors for Kenny Pickett that I know of. Carolina included, my sources there, I haven't heard them say, like, we love Pickett. But the same for Malik Willis, the same for Desmond Ridder, the same for Matt Corral, the same for Sam Howell. Like, I don't have that team where in recent years it's always been you get like a little inkling. Okay, look, this team, they love Zach Wilson. The Jets loved Zach Wilson last year. Or this team, they from what I hear, this team loves this guy. I don't have it for any of the quarterbacks. So it's difficult to put a name and number. Like Bucky Brooks, who we love, he doesn't have a quarterback going in the first round, and I can't say that's wrong. Like, I can't. So it's going to be fascinating where they end up, but I certainly don't have that player or that prospect that is linked to a team at the quarterback position right now.
So then let's finish up this quarterback conversation, Peter, by asking a question we ask on this show. What's more likely? We ask that question every now and then on this program. A Saturday morning when we go on the air in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're finding Daniel Jeremiah on his mattress somewhere atop a roof.
Yeah.
And we get him there in time, though, because that's the way the happy ending happens. On Saturday morning, what is more likely? We're talking about Baker Mayfield and his new team. We're talking about Baker Mayfield is going to have to hope somebody potentially gets hurt in training camp for him to find a new spot. What do you think is more likely Saturday morning?
Gosh, isn't that crazy? I mean, to think about where we've come. And I don't know if they're trading him because they don't have anything to like. Here's the thing. I would think that it would be, hey, Cleveland trades Baker Mayfield and a first-round pick for this. Or Baker, like they don't have a ton of picks, and they don't have a first-round pick right now, and they traded a bunch of future stuff to Houston, so there's not that much. I think you're going to have to maybe wait and see on this Baker deal, and the same with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think we're going to be waiting a little bit, and for Baker, maybe his best thing, and it sounds crazy to say this, his best thing might be just getting outright released by the Cleveland Browns, where at least he can pick his next destination. Money be damned, and maybe it's a short-term deal, and then he can crack it again, but I don't know. I don't have a spot for Baker right now. All along I heard Carolina wasn't really interested in him. I don't think Seattle's interested in him right now. So I think we might be waiting and seeing on Baker Mayfield.
Well, I mean, I think Saturday morning, unless there's a trade the night before from a team that didn't get their quarterback in the top 3 picks in the draft or top 3 rounds of the draft, Peter Schrager, that if that scenario does not unfold and Baker doesn't go somewhere second night of the draft, a la Josh Rosen a couple of years ago, then is it possible that Andrew Berry and the Browns are sitting there and thinking, you know what, let's hear how Roger Goodell rules on Deshaun Watson. Let's hold on to Baker and sort of, hand him a rose in our basement library and hope he comes around, like Beauty and the Beast. I'm honest, I know that's like, what is going on here? Is it possible that the Browns hold on to him and not release him?
I don't know. Knowing Baker, I don't know how that can. And again, there's a host of teams lining up for him. So I understand. It seems like he's in a rock and a hard place there, but I feel like the toothpaste is out of the tube, and every bridge has been kind of burned based publicly on their statements. Now, can you mend that? Yeah, we could find a way and say, hey, tail between our legs. We're sorry, man. We know it seems like it was pretty screwed up, but we did this, and we still need you. And gosh, for your value, what if you come in here and kill it, and then we can, hit free agency, and you can make a huge killing next year with a new team because you showed what kind of guy you were. There's a million ways we can spin it, but I can't see Baker wanting to play for the Browns ever again.
I know that, but what's going to happen, right? Like, honestly, the next week, if it doesn't happen for Baker, that next step is a Lulu. It could be a long time. Like, who makes trades for quarterbacks using next year's draft pieces in May or June? Nobody. Like, I don't remember anything like that happening, right? Like, so... No. And, like, even that Josh Rosen trade was for the 62nd pick in the draft, if I'm not mistaken. And people were freaking out. Like, you only got a 62nd in the draft. Like, the value of Baker is not what people might think. Like, they're not getting a first or second round pick for Baker right now, I don't think. I feel like at this point, you're looking at a devalued, piece, and I don't think Cleveland's looking to trade him for 20 cents on the dollar. They might as well just release him at this point and let him do the right thing, which is just crazy. Peter, we'll see you in Las Vegas. I'll see you very shortly. Thanks for the time. Greatly appreciate it, brother. We'll hang out.
I can't wait. Soon. You're the best, Rich. I can't wait.
Right back at you. That's Peter Schrager, everybody, of NFL Network, heading off. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.